open.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. It's a lovely Thursday evening. It's a Hard Talk edition of The Couch. My name is Ama Pratt. Let me quickly introduce my guests for this evening. Joining us this evening are Mr. Alfred Obami. That's the senior in journalism, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Such a privilege and a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Meeting you too as well.
Thank you so much. We have also been joined by lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa. He's a private legal practitioner lawyer. Good evening.
Yeah, evening.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
We have been joined by D. Kojo Yankson, broadcast journalist, Joy FM. Hi, Kojo. I missed you last week.
I know, yes. Sometimes you have to miss me.
No, I don't want to miss you. I want you here. Welcome. Okay, so our conversations are two for this evening. One, we are looking at our Vice President's, foremost speech to announce his interest in becoming president of the country. So BAWUMIA speaks will be the first one. Then we'll look at the reshuffle, that just happened today. Today. So let's start from the top and perhaps come down. Let's start from the Vice Presidency. What were your expectations first, before he even spoke, before he grabbed the microphone? What were your expectations of Vice President BAWUMIA? I will start with you.
And so let me wish your viewers a good evening.
Yeah.
And Alex Obami, a good evening. In fact, I was having a discussion with him prior to the program here, and I said his newspaper will go down as one of the most prophetic newspapers in the history of this country. And I only compare them to not compare, as in similar to what I call the prophecy of Dr. Nyahu Tamaklu. So, and pleasure to be in his presence. And it's always a joy to be in Kojo's presence. We've had a nice conversation prior to the program. I don't want to divert it here, even though I'm very tempted to do so. And I'm talking about this because honestly, I didn't have any expectations when, sadly, I didn't have any expectation when His Excellency Dr. BAWUMIA was going to give his speech. And probably I was coming from a position of massive disappointment. Well, I was one of those people who was really excited when he came into the political limelight. I was really excited, as in from 2008. I followed him keenly. I always enjoyed his lectures. As in, I was like, wow. So even though in 2008 I was not too enamored by Nana Addo, I've never really been sold by Nana Addo, as in I must confess. But to the extent in 2008, I didn't vote at all. As in, I didn't vote at all because I've never voted NDC. I've never voted NDC, and I was not convinced by Nana in 2008, so I decided to abstain, not to vote.
Wow.
But after having followed Dr. BAWUMIA for some time, in 2012, not only did I vote for Nana Addo, I actually campaigned in my own small way for the ticket. Because I understood that there must be a reason why our constitution, the Constitution of Ghana says that the president, when he's standing, must name his vice president, because the constitution recognizes that it's actually a ticket. And so, yeah, it's actually a ticket. And Article 60 says that when you vote for the president, whoever he named as his vice is automatically elected as. So, for me, it's very critical also to consider who the vice was, especially, and also because in 2012, Nana Addo painstakingly told Ghanaians that the reason why he was bringing Dr. BAWUMIA was to aid him in transforming the economy of Ghana. That famous speech where he said, during Kufuor's time, $1, 1 cedi, Mills and Mahama, $1, 2 cedis, and the how critical it was to have a stable currency if you were going to transform the economy. And then I think in the 2016 election, he was a star. I've never seen anybody campaign so well like His Excellency Dr. BAWUMIA did in 2016, even though also in 2016, his Excellency himself said then that Alan Chamantin campaigned more than anybody else in the. But in terms of speeches and lectures, Dr. BAWUMIA was And then, and I remember that, so me, when I was going to vote in 2016, my understanding was that His Excellency was the person, that is Dr. Maame Ama Pratt, who was going to lead the transformation of the economy of this country. Yeah. We are still in Ghana, and I think right now it is beyond contestation that our economy hasn't been transformed. It's nowhere near being transformed. Largely the same problems that existed prior to 2016 still exist, and even worse. I'm saying even worse because as dire as the economic situation was in 2016, Ghanaians hadn't lost confidence in, or people, not just Ghanaians, but also the international community, hadn't lost confidence in the economy of the country. And I'm saying in the economy because people were still very confident about buying bonds, and the principle that said that the safest place to invest your money was a government bonds still held true. Right now we are in a situation where the economy has been run down so much so that circumstances have happened that has actually questioned seriously that belief that the safest place to invest your money is in the government of Ghana. And I'm wondering where the next president of Ghana is going to get the finances to really
go on. So for you had absolutely no
expectation. But I listened to him because I was wondering what he was going to say. He hasn't put in
your reactions in the way.
But honestly speaking, the truth of the matter is that I had absolutely no expectations.
Okay, right.
None.
Kojo, what were your expectations?
Oh, I didn't think you'd come to this section. Okay, what were my expectations? I was curious. Mine was more of curiosity. Because before he gave that speech, I saw the vice president as being in an impossible situation. He had been the face of this very successful campaign that brought Akufo-Addo into government. And the role that he had played in that campaign was that he had been sold as the solution to our economic problems. And he had proved that he's capable of solving our economic problems by explaining at length what it would take to solve those economic problems in ways that were never disputed by any economic authority. So he had established that in terms of the technical ability to run an economy, he had it. Then he became part of this government that has failed in managing our economy. Now, it put him in an impossible situation because I know that the people around him have been seeking to communicate this idea that BAWUMIA has never been responsible for any decisions taken about our economy. They've tried to demonstrate this idea that BAWUMIA was placed as head of the economic management team as per convention to make us believe that his expertise is going to be used for the benefit of the economy. The economic management team's job really is to advise cabinet so that whenever they are taking decisions on the economy, they'll have the benefit of the advice of these experts to make good decisions. So as cabinet made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, borrowed and borrowed and borrowed our way into a gutter, mismanaged our resources and signed deals that made no sense and completely devalued our currency and made life harder and harder for Ghanaians, so that when the world was hit by global crisis, the effect on us was worse than the effect on our neighbors. As these things happened, it became the logical question for everybody to ask that, is the vice president who we heard, is he part of this? So going into this speech, the vice president's biggest task was to somehow convince Ghanaians that everything that has happened in spite of him, not because of him. That was the job he had at hand. And I didn't know how he could possibly pull it off. So I was curious coming in to see what he would do about that. I never thought he would have any difficulty in articulating a vision. No, I mean, he's proved in the past that he knows how to do that. And he did articulate a beautiful vision in 2016. That's why Ghanaians chose the NPP to be their next government, because the vision that they had was articulated well by BAWUMIA. In 2020, same thing happened. So I didn't have any concern about him being able to articulate his vision. My curiosity was how he was going to get anyone to believe the vision. How will he get Ghanaians to believe that these things I'm saying, this time, dear, they will happen? That was my curiosity going in.
Right. Senior.
Well, I had expectations and I think he met them. Sadly, I expected him to stay away from economic issues, which is what everybody would have expected him rather to focus on. But having watched the vice president over a period of time and having observed the deliberate effort to make digitization, to own it, as if without him there will be no digitization in Ghana, as if the process of digitization started with him, and to be involved in almost anything technical or IT related, I expected him to focus more of his energy there. And I expected him to do that because I realized that he's not be comfortable defending the economic track record he's been part of. He's not be comfortable selling the fact that he's an economist and an expert at that and was sold as a messiah of sort to our economic challenges, and of the fact that in power he actually owned that title, sold us the image of a solution of our economic challenges, starting with his first 100-day statement of our arrested dollar given to the IGP who is here, and then the various economic policies that they rolled out, including the harbor benchmark policies that they had to quickly review. He was the face of all those things. And if you go back and you watch, you realize that in most instances he was coordinating with the finance minister. He seemed to be having tete-a-tete with him, seemed to be speaking with him and all that. But all of a sudden, he started running from the forefront of economic issues. And you could see it was a deliberate policy to run away from it. At the point he wasn't even speaking. He never even spoke economics. He would speak about building toilet, anything but the economy. So for me, my expectation was that he was going to do the same. He would focus on IT related topics, digitization, and that's largely what he did. And he did. I must confess that I didn't even watch him live, because I happened to be watching the Nigeria, South Africa match. I'd actually even forgotten that he was built to speak until at the point in the game I decided to go to other channels and realized that he was. So then I was caught in between, and the moment I realized he was focused on the digitalization and whatnot, I said, what is this? I just projected and the man is doing exactly as I did. So I was caught in between, and I had to go back to watch most of the video after the match. And for me, he virtually met my expectation of trying to shift focus, trying to run away from the issues that face us, and trying to find comfort in a new area that is found, and trying to associate himself with virtually anything. Look, to the point of claiming digitalization as kind of taking corruption out of the passport system. Just last year, I mean around August or so, the Foreign Affairs Minister had gone to the ministry complaining about the excessive corruption that the process itself had enabled for some to use as a tool to extract money from people. But I also understood him in a way. You see, power is something. And in power, what I've realized is that sometimes people become numb to situations around them. Because look, in power, if you're making money, most people you tend to meet or see on a regular basis are people who are doing well. If you do not have a means of reflection or a means of getting back to society to observe how ordinary people beyond those around you are living, you tend to think that everybody is as well as you. Because all the people you meet on a regular, everyday scenario are people who are doing okay. They are relatively doing okay. And you've been elevated from the status of when you were dealing with, you know, on compared to you meet them. But when you get elevated to a certain status and you don't live within people who are struggling, who are having difficulties, who are telling you their difficulties, and if you are especially protected by those around you from those people, you tend to get numb to the idea of suffering. And therefore, for me, I think he's forgotten some of those things. And he felt, look, to the extent that you wonder the linkage between the digitization theories he was, and I call it theories, because some of those theories, in as much as they are practical, they will not add jobs. If you don't even take care, the digitization process itself has a way of sometimes even rendering people jobless.
Right.
Because you employ IT, and where manual skills sometimes have to be used, you've got to take them out. He saw some of those, and I was wondering, to what end?
To what end? To what end? Okay, so we've all spoken about our expectations. Now let's enter the speech. Let's go straight into the speech. I think Senior sets us off beautifully by saying that he kind of avoided, you know, in looking at the speech, I think your analysis of the speech is that he shifted, you know, focus from economy to digitization, and then he shied away from specific policies that he himself, you know. So you set us off. I want somebody else to take it from there. What are your impressions of the speech?
Sorry, who? Okay. All right. Like I said, I didn't think he would have any difficulty articulating his vision, and he didn't. I think he articulated his vision very well. You know, you can split that speech into two parts. First, he tried to talk about his record, so basically the record of this government. Then second, he tried to talk about his vision. As for the vision part, I'm sorry, I cannot fault him. Every idea that he suggested is feasible, is plausible. The only problem is whether people believe that he will do them.
Which is the most important.
Yes, but in terms of what he actually said, those are very, very good ideas. The problem is with the record. For me, that is where the communication fell apart. You see, I think I said it here when I was giving an example of a very, very effective communicator on the NPP side. I mentioned Miracles Abwaji.
Right.
And I said that guy, he has a formula. When you ask him a question, the first thing he does is he concedes something. He will admit to something. That, oh, it's true that we didn't do well here. Or, oh, it's true that we have not achieved this. Or, oh, it's true that he could have said this better. He will concede something. After that, he will ask a question. But what if this? Then he will spend the rest of his time answering that question by making all the points to defend his position. Now, that format works. Especially the first step, which is conceding something. And that's what the vice president should have done. He should have started by conceding that things are bad and it's their fault. He should have said it as simple as that. That, you know what, we are your government. If things are bad, we did it.
But indeed,
it's our fault.
But indeed, it is. You know,
yes, that's why I'm saying concede.
Right.
Concede means admit, because that's the truth. You see why I say concede?
But you want an argument too quick.
I don't want an argument. I'm saying something. You interrupted to tell me that.
But it is the truth, Kojo. Whatever is happening in this space
have I said it's not? I use the word concede because it's the truth. So thank you for agreeing with me. Can I continue with my point now? So yes, that's the first thing he should have done. He should have conceded that this mess is their fault. and not attempted to make it seem as if it happened without him. Because no matter how you slice it, even if it is true that all his advice was ignored, that in itself is a failure. If your job is to advise someone and the person never takes your advice, you failed. So for me, that should have been his first step. And you see, if he had done that, I like to call it the 8 Mile principle. There's a movie called 8 Miles starring Eminem. And it's a funny analogy to draw, because this is a movie about rap and hip hop and rap battles, right? So this guy is trying to make it in this rap battle tournament where people come up against each other and insult each other with rap. It's very poetic, very interesting, very, it's a big talent. Yes.
I love the movie.
Now, at the final stage of this contest, where he comes up against the biggest, rap battle person in this story, he takes a very interesting strategy. He knows this person is going to come and laugh at him, tease him, insult him for every inferior thing about him. So when he starts, he does it to himself. He admits everything that is wrong with him. And by the time he's done, there's nothing for his opponent to say. And so he wins. And I'm saying that this principle works. In politics, your opponent is simply looking for points to make against you. Make them against yourself. Before you say it. So you see, what that does is that it opens everyone's ears. If this guy is willing to admit his faults, then let me hear what he has to say. But he failed. Rather, he decided to do what politicians do and defend everything, even the indefensible. We're tired of that in this country. Both parties do it, and it's sickening. As if you don't make mistakes, as if you don't get anything wrong. So he came there and spent half of his, in fact more than half of his 3-hour delivery defending this economy. Come on, why? And then, confusingly for everybody, he then also tries to make it seem as if he's not part of it by making that I was simply the mate, not the driver, which is to make the point that you didn't make these decisions. So first you defend the record, then you say you didn't make the decisions.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was that I didn't make the decision.
No.
And then he tried to defend some aspects of it. I thought his main thing was that
that's not what
it wasn't me.
The mate thing came halfway through the speech, after he had spent hours defending the record of this government, listing all the things that he considered to be achievements of this government, right? Then he said he's the mate, so if you make him the driver, he will do more. Now, you see, here again, communication fails him, because I think I know what he was trying to say. What he was trying to say was that, oh, my government has done so well, as you've heard me say for the past hour or so, right? And we did all this even though I was only playing the role of a mate. So imagine if I'm the driver, how much more we will do. Maybe that's what he was trying to say.
That's not what he said.
But it didn't come out that way at all. I know that's not what he said. That's why I said maybe that's what he was trying to say.
I also doubt it.
He didn't say that. I agree with you that he didn't say that. I'm saying that it is possible that's what he was trying to say. But that's not what he said. Instead, he said that he's the mate, he's not the driver. So make him the driver so that he can do the following. Then he talked about his vision. What I'm saying is that it was a gaffe of catastrophic proportions. Because you see, Ama, nobody remembers what else John Mahama said in that speech where he described himself as a dead goat. Nobody remembers what else Akufo-Addo said in that speech where he said, all die be die. Nobody remembers. Because that one thing each of those presidents said became the focus of the entire delivery. And nobody cared about anything else. Today, if I walk on the street and I ask the average Ghanaian to tell me what BAWUMIA's vision is, do you think they know? Do you think they heard? Do you think they remember? All they know is that he says he's a mate. And that is all the discussion has been since he finished. So that was a catastrophic mistake on his part. No matter what it is he was trying to say, just making such an analogy has destroyed the effort. All the work that went into that speech is gone. So 2 mistakes. One, he didn't concede that it is because of him and his government that we are where we are. He rather touted successes. 2, he obliterated everything else he had to say by making that trotro meat analogy. I still maintain that because maybe I am trained to listen so that I can go and have detailed analysis of what he had to say. I listened, and I still maintain that the vision he communicated was good. It is a good vision. But work done zero, because nobody's going to remember.
Right. Which brings me to a fundamental question, and perhaps this will be the meat of our conversation. For me, when it comes to, the person of Dr. BAWUMIA, he has earned for himself, and I'm going to be very blunt, with the issues. I'm not going to, sugarcoat or mince words. He has earned for himself a place in our politics that is liar. That's what the average Ghanaian says about him. Everybody says it, everybody calls him that. He's earned that title for himself. So for me, honestly, I don't think anything he says beyond that tag can matter. That's where I am coming from. Which then begs the question of his speech and whether it was successful or whether it wasn't successful, or all of those analysis, and Kojo saying that the vision is good, and all of that for me is defeated by a certain image, rightly or wrongly, that he himself has managed to earn for himself within our politics.
His speech even affirmed my unalloyed belief that he lacks serious credibility. As in, it will affirm that, and as in to agree with what Kojo said about the sector of his speech. He spent, I think his speech was 174 paragraphs long. He spent, I think, about 108 paragraphs trying to defend the government and trying to convince Ghanaians that he was really the mate. He was not in charge. And then he spent, I think, from paragraph 109 to the 174 trying to articulate his vision. Now, when you read, and like I also listened to this, even though I had no expectations, I actually listened to this because I anticipated I would be coming here, and then as I must show that at least I listened to a speech.
We are grateful.
But I was really disappointed. I didn't think he was capable of disappointing me. I was really disappointed when he tried in paragraph 63 to say that the finance minister was in charge of the fiscal, the Bank of Ghana governor was in charge of monetary policy, and he was in charge with tackling systems that would impact the fundamentals of the economy. Dr. BAWUMIA is a smart guy. He knows that the role government plays in any economy is the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. And he knows that the failure of this government has been how it's failed to apply fiscal policy. And when you say fiscal year, how it's raised revenue, how it's spent money, and massive failure in terms of the money, in terms of the interest rates, printing of money, and all those issues, because they deal with the supply of money. You understand? So immediately you say that this guy was the one who was in charge with how he raised money and how he spent money, and other guy was in charge of interest rates, what's called the exchange rate, printing of money. And really they are the causes of where we are, and I was dealing with systems. What are those systems? What are those fundamentals? Would the average Ghanaian intellectual who is not an economist even understand those fundamentals? So when you say I was doing that, then smartly you are taking yourself out of the reasons why we are, and then you go to the paragraph 65 shockingly. So he said he decided to do those. He said BAWUMIA decided to do those. But you go to paragraph 65, and shockingly he says that the president tasked him to assist the president in tackling the matters that were making the transformation of our economy difficult. And he decided to, his approach was to attempt to formalize that. And I'm like, why is this man doing this to himself? Because really in 65, we know that we will concentrate on the 63 and not come to the 65. And the 65, he practically admitted that the president tasked him to transform the economy, and he chose to formalize, to attempt to formalize the economy in tackling those, and he tried to use digitization. And I was even expecting him to say, because he is an academic, a doctor, a lecturer, to say that, okay, so when I use that approach, in 2017, this was, let's say, GDP, was just an indicator. The GDP was this, the GDP has increased by that. What was it called? Agri sector was this, agri sector was that. We had, because we all know that right now, 65% of all Ghanaian businesses are not formalized. We know. Maybe so in when we took over, it was less than 90%. Right now is 65%. Because you say you're doing digitalization and it's about data. So at least you should be able to give, he should be able to give us indicators as to how his approached, the approach himself chose has impacted the economy. And then he was all over the place. Eventually, he settled on how digitalization has enabled the public sector in giving us some services. It was more than catastrophic. You are the English people. Is there a word beyond catastrophe? It was, and I was like, wow. Then even so, beyond what's it called? The attempt being catastrophic. Even when you interrogate the vision, you understand? It's shocking because there's no president in this country, no politicians whose vision, the purported vision, can be said to be bad. We've heard domestication. Can you tell me domestication? I've never heard any politician. We all have. If you ask me to give you my vision for Ghana, you say to me, it is a beautiful. You say that that's a beautiful vision. Okay.
Which one?
Maybe I can't remember.
Which one? Please mention.
Please do.
Which one?
I can't recall. So
which one?
Let's not make it about anything other than
because I can't recall. It's easy to talk about. You understand? What we need right now is a plan.
We pay for every child to go to boarding school. That's a good mission.
Who said that? Enarado. Well, that's debatable.
Free SHS.
That's debatable.
But that's not free SHS.
Yeah. No, but that was
It's a byproduct.
The byproduct is what is defeating the whole scheme. That was not a good vision. Anyway.
Largely, to put across visions that are largely
right to a large extent.
Yeah. So for me, that was not what I was, because I've listened to His Excellency John Mahama's vision. He says his vision is to give us 24-hour economy. By itself, it's not bad. Yeah, so we can interrogate it. Honorable Anjamati says that he's going to give us a vision that will create a cash and jobs economy. That in itself is not bad. Right now, where we are, we need a plan. Right. So we need a plan. You are talking about a vision, Bama's vision. That can only be achieved if he manages to transform the economy.
Absolutely.
Already, he's tempted that by the fact that he said that his task was to transform the economy, and he failed woefully at that. So the credibility issue is there.
Right.
But then again, I actually didn't see a plan that was going to, because so beyond when he set his vision, he then went ahead to talk about possibility and macroeconomic what's it called, stability and cost of living. But something like cost of living is actually a byproduct or an effect like the 24-hour economy. There are really effects, you understand? If you put in place the correct plan that will transform the economy, you have a 24-hour economy. If you put in place correct plans, that will also lead to transformation. The cost of living, as in if it's a factor of how much you are earning and how much you are spending, the cost of living will be okay. What I didn't see in this plan, in this vision, was a clear plan, a clear program as to how he is going to achieve that.
Okay. And
for me, that was disappointing. And for me, the conclusion I came to is the same old politician who think like, I said it in your, not in John Joy, I was on Adom. The FSHS is a case of a president who didn't have a vision but wanted to be president and felt that no, he has to see something. It's exactly
say
what
something. I want us to get specific now.
That is exactly what
Right.
BAWUMIA is doing.
Right.
There's somebody, in his case, I don't think he wanted to be president when he was coming. Who has been convinced that he has to be president? And then his burden now is, what do I go and tell the people of
Let me
Ghana?
find something to tell them.
So
Let's see what he did tell us. So he says, we have reduced the national rental assistance to assist people with rent issue, and 1,393 people have benefited so far.
See,
Please hold on, I'll read some more, then you can react to all of them. I'm reading because I want us to get specific about things that have been said. He says taxes on gambling will be scrapped under my administration. So this is, so the first one was past, this one is, future. My administration will work to reduce the cost of public transport between 30 to 40% with the adoption of electric vehicles for public transportation. There will be no emissions levy under my administration. He says national service will no longer be mandatory. So these are some of the
in fact, see, he's so dishonest, because you see, all these taxes, emission tax, how they even come about? See, we went into an IMF program. You understand? IMF said the people who led the program, who led the negotiations.
It was actually
the vice president, the finance minister, and the Bank of Ghana governor. But IMF don't draw a program for you. Whenever you go to IMF, that you have to deal with revenue issues. You understand? So we, as the team, led by Dr. BAWUMIA, went to the IMF that, listen, we would increase our revenue mobilization by adopting an emission tax. Right. So you go and do all this with the IMF. And then within about some matter of months, you come and tell us that you are going to take off these taxes. So what does it stand for? You understand? What it stands for? Because we all have our views about an economic should run.
Right.
And that will determine the kind of taxes or how you even tax. Right. So what does it stand for?
Right.
Well, it stands for something. You see, you need to understand the challenge you faced. They are quite aware that they messed the economy up. And in the run-up to their own presidential primary, I think Kennedy had a position, which is anybody who is part of an integral part of the administration cannot sell any hope to Ghanaians. And that he, as an outsider, in as much as he's an insider, because he's an appointee of the president, as the chair of the Ghana Gas Board, he is not seen to be that integral in terms of being a minister or something. And therefore he could distance himself from, the feelings of the administration and say, hey, I have a different vision. I think that is what BAWUMIA sought to do. And it's not also totally different from, if you go back to 2008, most people are forgetful. And I say it is a look, the vice president's leverage in the MPP is that of the president. It doesn't have any besides that of the president Akufo-Addo. In other words, his support base is Akufo-Addo's support base. And without President Akufo-Addo, the vice president, in all sincerity, there's nobody in the MPP. Yet, they're also aware that things have gone south for the administration. And it reminded me of what President Akufo-Addo sought to do in 2008, if most people will remember.
Yes.
In 2008, the Kufuor administration was perceived to be corrupt, perceived to be ineffective, and in fact, President Kufuor had a very relatively bad image. What did President Akufo-Addo, then candidate Akufo-Addo, do? He sought to project himself as a different person who would deal with the economy differently from President Kufuor. To the extent that President Kufuor was not made an integral part of the campaign team. It was when, during the second round, when they realized that things had gone bad, that they sought to get him to lead the campaign in time. Because they realized that no, with all the criticism, it still had a certain leverage. What those who practiced that in 2008 are seeking to do is to play a similar game using the vice president. In other words, do the Kennedy kind of campaign, but do it in a way where you won't do it as directly as we did with President Kufuor.
Yeah.
Because nobody can convince me that the speech of the vice president was not discussed with the finance minister and all those things. They have to buy it. It's a deliberate policy. You pretend to be throwing us under the bus, but at the same time pretend to be defending us and see how it will go.
But how does that work? That's my question. Because
It can work.
whatever strategy you're leading with, putting across, it has to work.
Yes.
But this strategy is a little confused for me.
It's a little confusing
I'm
because of
how you think it would
what
work.
he said. It's a person marketing the strategy. And you also said something. A person has been perceived to be a man who tells any fib just to get what he wants. Unfortunately, the vice president had that reputation because he was the face of almost every promise that was made, and he kept on even making promises in government that had not been fulfilled, like building the 32-seater toilet in Agugoshi.
Oh, he hasn't done that.
It's not been done.
Oh,
Even toilet, it's not been done. And they give you too much data. They didn't verify some of the data. It ended up, that data track saying they did too many projects that were not on. So the question was, okay, sell an image of yourself as somebody who be different because you are naturally a different person. And we all have different views and different ways of doing things. So by virtue of the fact that you are BAWUMIA, when you are in charge, you run things differently. It makes sense.
Right.
Basic, it makes sense. Because a BAWUMIA presidency will not necessarily be the same as an Akufo-Addo presidency. But where it doesn't also make sense is the fact that you are not just a mate. Or indeed, if you are the mate, as we all know, mates, they decide on where to stop, who to get on board. How much sales you make in a day will be determined by your mate. Because whether he troubles you, if I've used that word, or whether he's effective in getting passengers on board, is what will all contribute to you being successful. In other words, a mate is one who must have the listening ears of his driver. He has a certain leverage and a certain influence. That is why he can say, stop, all those things. So if you are a mate in this administration and you have that leverage over your boss, and per your own analysis, you'll be successful at certain things, it presupposes that you have the listening ears of your boss.
Right.
You have some time to go.
Right.
What is your influence? You mean you cannot influence your boss to implement some of the things you are saying? And as I said, you were the lead. Look, let's say it was a ceremonial lead in the IMF negotiations. Let's just say. And I don't think it was because he's an economist. So his word and his input would matter in such a meeting. If his words and inputs do not matter, then it's a reflection of the bad perception they have of him.
Right.
It would mean then that the finance minister and the economists around him think he's not solid.
I mean, either way, and I think Kojo alluded to that, either way it's a failure. Whether you were in charge, failure. Whether you were not in charge, failure, because you should have been in charge. So either way, that's why I'm confused about how anybody would have thought that, this messaging was effective. I will start. I think it fell flat from the reactions from, social media.
It certainly did.
It's completely, it did not work. This speech
Because
did not work.
they estimated people's perception. They estimated the weakness of the vice president in terms of him, the perception people have of him.
Yeah.
He's not trustworthy. He says things on the spur of the moment. He's eager to win power. And And all those things are there. So I think they underestimated it. But then again, come to think of it, I asked myself, did they really underestimate it, or they were just trying to get people
to react?
Look, the timing of the event itself. Were they aware that the semi-final matches were on at the same time, and they ought to be? Because this is something that had been pre-planned long before his speech.
Right.
If they were aware, why did they fix the timing?
For that time, I want us to rush. I'm looking at time. You said
because
I want us to rush.
That's the point. They are very strategic. First of all, they don't want people to listen.
Listen, that's
after they don't use their propaganda team to tell the side. And then they also
work in his favor.
Listen, you only know whether that worked or not after 7th December.
After the election.
Yeah, and see, and they also have a perception of the Ghanaian.
Yeah.
They also have, because so this is a country where a lot of people will vote for whoever only because of the party.
Partisan.
Yeah. So they know the kind of country or the kind of audience or the kind of markets they are dealing in. So like so give them something, understand? Give us a feed this and let's try and use propaganda.
Give it a focus on it, so they don't get to observe what you say, and then you let the party
and then
system
174 paragraph. There's a lot of people won't read. As I know, you throw you attempt to let people understand martial PR and media power and fit to the people what you want them to.
It was a lesser of evil, lesser of the two evils. I mean, if everybody was focused on him, then everybody would naturally be able to monitor and
analyze and make their own needs.
But if you have divided attention,
you'd have to rely on what somebody else tells you.
On Saturday, you unleash people to go on very popular and where's it?
So I think it was a little.
And then we can
spin and all.
All right. Kojo, was it successful? Did this speech work?
I have some sympathy for the vice president. I feel sorry for the situation that he's in. But I don't really know whether this is the platform for me to express my sympathy for the vice president. I am concerned that I might be interrupted and challenged before I can make my point fully.
Okay, just say what you want to say to me. Mention my name by name.
Well, let's see how it goes. Let me try to articulate my thoughts.
Be fast.
All right. So yeah, I have some sympathy for the vice president because I think he's in an untenable position. Whatever he does, however it turns out, is not going to look good for him because he's really part of a government that has failed. So with that in mind, even if it is true, what this impression that he's trying to create, even if it's true, that look, nobody listens to him. And I'll be honest with you, I'm inclined to believe that that is true. But I'll tell you why when we talk about the reshuffle. I'm inclined to be of the view that actually the vice president is far less influential in this government than we think. But even if that's true, what it means is when you now come and tell us that after failing to be influential in your government, we should give you the mandate to become our president, it becomes a hard message to sell. Okay, and look, that's what's opening up all kinds of conspiracy theories. This thing you are saying about the timing of the broadcast, I can tell you, I happen to be privileged to know that they discussed it at length. Because it came up, somebody said, hey, AFCON, what is it called? Nigeria is playing South Africa. Two big teams, playing at the same time. There will be divided attention. So somebody said, oh, then why don't we do it earlier? But then there was a scheduling problem. The vice president had an event. He would not be ready until the original time that they had set. And by the way, they said this time long before the timetable for the whatever came out. So it was a bit of not before it came out, but before they were aware of it. So the scheduling was an issue. So in the end, they decided, okay, look, that game is a big game, but it's not the final. It's not Ghana either. So let's run our thing. Even if people don't get to watch it live, they can go and watch bits of it later on social media and so forth. But we are hoping that it's not like a Ghana match, and it's not like the final of AFCON. So we are hoping that it is only those who are just who love football so much who will think that that is more important than the vice president speaking. So in the end, that is the decision they came to. So it's not as Machiavellian as you may think. There's not that amount. So. There are not so many layers of scheming. Like I said,
you wouldn't run it if you were in such a position.
No, I would have changed it. I would have changed it. What I'm saying is that when teams make decisions, it is the most influential person who makes the decision, not the whole team. So when this guy's team were trying to plan this thing, the most influential person on the team came to this conclusion, and that's why the team did it. Not because they had some master plan to divide people's attention. I'm just saying that. Okay. Anyway, back to my sympathies for the vice president, because your question is, did it work?
Did it work?
Okay. Look, Association of Ghana Industries, spare parts, dealers, importers, and all commercial groups have given a seal of approval to BAWUMIA's vision. All of them. And in fact, they've done it on more than one occasion, on more than one issue from the vision. So it's not that the whole thing fell flat on its face. No. Some people found value in it. But the goal that they intended to achieve, I don't think they achieved it. And I think the thing that defeated it was that mate thing and his failure to concede his role in where we are. So if you ask me, did it work? And by the way, it is true that he suffers the perception of being a liar. It's true. Like even kids in school tend to say these things. I would not be so ready to accept that he earned all of that for himself. Oh, he contributed, yes. But I don't think he earned all of it for himself. I think the NDC also did a good job of propagating that perception. I've often criticized NDC's communication. I don't think they do very well with their communication. But if there's one thing I can say, they've done significantly better than others. It's pushing this Bawulaya agenda. They've done it well. Because you see, if you ask the vice president himself, how are you going to overcome this impression that you are a liar? The first question he will ask you is that, tell me what I lied about. If it's a campaign promise, please calm yourself.
These are publicly documented public speeches.
Let me
I'm surprised at this question. Publicly
finish. They talked about the government performing better.
I completely
have to talk about the economy improving.
I don't think that the NDC has done that well.
And that has been a consistent pattern.
More than anybody deserves that credit.
In comparing inflation, of course, he talked about his government doing well than the previous administration. Then in comparing inflation figures, he referenced what we were at last year, 54, then reference the 23 point, is it 3 that we're at? And at the same administration, the same MPP, you took us to 57, 54, and you brought us to 23 thereabout. And for you did that than an inflation figure of about 15% that you inherited. That is a lie. That is an obvious lie. It's an obvious untruth. It is propaganda. It's spinning.
The warped logic. It is warped logic.
Yes, you mean. Okay. But that's what we've pointed out to you that indeed he lied.
He pointed out
by
to who? To me.
himself. Yes.
That's if you were listening. What I said was that if you ask BAWUMIA,
Him. I got that.
no, you didn't. If you
did.
ask BAWUMIA
Yeah.
what he's going to do about this perception, he will ask you, what did I lie about? So if you have answers, give them to him. Me, I'm saying what he would say. If I may continue now.
Okay, you may continue.
Thank you. That's what he will ask you. He will tell you that, as for campaign promises, every government in our history has failed at some campaign promise or the other. So if you tell him that you promised airport here, you promised toilets there, and you didn't achieve them, well, every government has examples of campaign promises they didn't achieve. But when it comes to the specific things he has said about the economy, that we have done this, we have achieved that, we have gained this, we've got 50% of this, we've dropped this, bring evidence to counter his data. He loves the word data. Bring evidence to counter his data. That's what BAWUMIA will say to you. Okay. Now, the reason why I have sympathy for him is because at this point, nobody is ready to listen to anything he has to say. Nobody has a listening ear for anything he has to say. Unfortunately, whether it is by his own doing or whether he was put in that position, he is now the mouthpiece for a beautiful vision or future that we never achieved. And we are told that we have actually been now set back about 20 years from anything near that beautiful vision. We have been set back 20 years. Other countries were all hit by this same COVID, by this same Ukraine war. But somehow they are on the path to recovery. Some of them didn't even have to go to the IMF. We did. We did. And we still insist that this government was better run than anyone has ever run it. It's an impossible argument to make. So at this point, BAWUMIA, nobody is interested. Nobody is interested in what he has to say, which is a pity, because he may have some good things to say. It may be worth it for us Ghanaians to take his vision and compare it to that of other people running for president. It may have been worth it for us to compare and see which one is better. But nobody is going to give him that chance to even be compared, because before he even finishes speaking, he's being dismissed. So once again, we are all going to the ballot box, and we might end up making decisions based on emotion rather than facts, because we are not willing to consider the facts coming from one place. It's not a surprise. That's what we do in this country. We vote based on emotion. And he has painted himself into a place where he's not being considered for the comparison. How he's going to turn that around between now and December, I have no idea. But the same curiosity with which I watched his speech, I'll use it to watch his campaign and see if he can pull it off.
Coach, I think I've done well not disrupting you.
Why do you think you've done well? I
disagree with so many things that you just said.
I'm actually surprised that he says that we are not dealing with facts. Because you see, we are dealing with facts.
You disagree with so many things.
He said we may not judge him based on the facts. And I'm saying that we are being emotional. I doubt. Look, what are the facts? A man who himself told us that he is in charge of the economic.
He says he's not the second most powerful man.
He is, by the constitution, by the law. He doesn't need to tell
that
us.
Was a ticket he voted
Actually,
for.
He's not.
He voted for the ticket.
The vice president is second to the president.
What is the duty of the vice president? Is he the second most powerful person?
Yes, the vice president is the most powerful.
The constitution says that he deputizes for the president.
It says that. In fact, the constitution says that the vice president does the rule that the constitution itself has given it, and the rule that the president.
Thank you. So the president gives him no rule.
But how is it that BAWUMIA is saying that the president asked him to transform the economy. That's what BAWUMIA said. So we judge him by that statement. Yeah, and
he says somebody did monetary. He says somebody did fiscal.
What he's saying.
He says somebody did monetary. So somebody did fiscal. right?
Yeah.
So if you are talking about who was in control of the economy and you want to go by his words, then he's telling you that even on the economy alone, he was the third.
But two paragraphs after him.
So are we taking his word or not?
We have to analyze his
lying or not.
But two paragraphs after.
Actually, the question.
So
do you think he's lying or not?
Sometimes he's lying.
No.
He's either lying or he's telling the truth.
That's what we are trying to figure out. That's what we are trying to figure out.
So he's lying. So if he's lying, then why are you willing to accept that he's the most powerful person?
The Constitution says so. He himself has told us so.
The Constitution doesn't say so. The Constitution says the vice president's duty is whatever the president says.
The Constitution actually gave.
That's why Ali Mahama was not the second powerful person in this country. That's why John was vice president. When it comes to the vice president, why are we changing
we are not. When it comes to the vice president of this country, he himself tells us that he is one of the most effective.
So we are going with what he says now.
Sometimes we go with what he says. Sometimes in analysis, you go with everything. You put these issues together and you come to a conclusion. So what he says, what the other says, what the law says is
number 2. Yes, the speaker is number 3. And the CJ is number 4. It's so clear in the Constitution. So what are we talking about?
Even the speaker.
He's actually the leader of the party.
In terms of
it doesn't make him the second most powerful.
So how do we tell him
when Queen Elizabeth was queen? Prince Charles was not the second most powerful person.
How do you determine that? Yeah, so what do you want yourself in trying to do? When clearly, and what says you exactly.
So what do you see from
practice is so.
For me,
in practice, it is so. He himself has told us so.
Right.
So now we are going with what he says.
And even beyond that, the Constitution says so. Because you see, at the end of the day, the person who we have given responsibility to manage the economy is the president. He can delegate. You understand? And what he does is to give direction. Now the president says that, listen, you the vice president, the Constitution says I can give you a job to do. I want you to transform my economy. The role the government plays is through fiscal and through monetary. So what the vice president will do is to give direction to the finance minister. You understand? To give direction.
Interpretation.
No, but he's saying that. But the president is saying that. He's saying that the president taxed him to transform the economy. He himself said so. And so then it helped government spend money. Because it's in the same in the same text. Yeah, so when it came to what's called the gold for oil thing. Yeah, the gold for oil thing. He was so powerful that he could just tell Bank of Ghana governor start buying gold. That's how powerful he was, without consulting anybody. So after the power, we shouldn't even go there. He was so powerful to just call the Bank of Ghana governor that start buying gold. They will not start the gold for oil without even seeing a clear policy paper on it. That's how powerful the vice president was. So we should even try straight into the arena of he's the same person who even praised the governor, the bank for doing a good job.
And for me,
and in analysis, you look at all the facts.
Absolutely.
Even the Chelsea one issue.
Absolutely.
When the story broke, the vice president was so powerful that in the absence of the president, he fired the guy. He issued a statement. And the government was trying to how to give. That's how powerful he was.
At that time, he was president.
He shouldn't stray.
At that time, he was president.
We shouldn't even stray into the area of what people. So how then do we?
I want us to move along. I want us to move along. You see, and I keep saying this. For me, it's also just the fact that you don't choose your vice presidents for nothing.
Exactly.
We vote based on the two people. It's a joint ticket. It's a joint ticket. And that's why the issue of a vice president is always so topical everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world.
For me,
everywhere in the world.
Basic thing is we know there's a difference between a president and a vice. But from Ikensen Aka to BAWUMIA, you can certainly be sure that is among those vice presidents who himself admits that he's had an influential role.
No.
He says it, we see it, we know it. So for me to be told to trust in his later revisionist interpretation of his role. Who was then the second most powerful person? Who? But and the point is, if indeed you were not perceived to be powerful, and people are not listening to you, it's
a failure.
It's a failure of your ability to convince.
Or it means that they don't even trust.
They don't even trust you or efficiency.
It's a failure.
They don't even trust in your gravitas. Because this IMF issue, nobody actually went in the IMF. There's some service there in the IMF. So if you go and meet the IMF and you propose and they disagree with you, then there's something fundamentally wrong with you.
Again, there should be public positions that would even make us believe in what he's saying.
Yeah.
In other words, some of the policies that you're claiming you were against, what were your positions?
I really want to have some, but just to say that, I would even give it more degree than you did. I think that the history, the era that you speak about, that time frame that you give, BAWUMIA has been the most popular vice president that we've ever had.
He says he's the most efficient. He himself says so.
So I would give him way more credit, for adding way more to his ticket than every other vice president ever has, in that time frame.
Is NABCO not
in that time frame?
NABCO is not his
Let's
NABCO not his baby. So NABCO is his baby. So the NABCO, they spent 2.1 billion there in NABCO, and one of what was supposed to be the most transformational program is about 400 million there. And want to tell you
let's go along, lawyer. Let's go along. Let's go straight.
He's only running from responsibility.
We won't allow.
I'm coming to you.
Believes that,
Kojo, you said you were going to give us, some information that was going to buttress some earlier point that you had made with the ministerial reshuffle. This is what I think about the ministerial reshuffle. I think that it is too little, too late. I don't see how, it can realistically and practically change things around, for the fortunes of Ghanaians, not even the NPP, for the fortunes of this country. I fail to see it. What do you make of the reshuffle that happened today?
Yesterday. Wasn't it yesterday?
It was actually yesterday. A full list. Oh yes, we got a full list yesterday. Yeah, right. Yes, yesterday. Wednesday, yes.
Many calls came through for the president to reshuffle his government. For years and years and years, people called for it. He didn't do it. Then eventually, on Valentine's Day yesterday, he decided to do a reshuffle. The problem with the reshuffle is not even the fact that it's too little, too late. I mean, just last week, people were calling for him to do a reshuffle. Just last week. So if he's done one now, the same people who were calling for it last week can't suddenly come and say it's too late, because just last week you were calling for it. But that's not the problem with this reshuffle. Yeah. This reshuffle is pointless because it changes nothing. In fact, the only thing it changes is to give certain individuals the opportunity to come and build a war chest for their election campaigns. That is really the only effect it has. So we have a country of 30 million people that the president is supposed to be presiding over. He has made a reshuffle that benefits maybe about 13 of us. But he insists that he's president of all of us. I don't get it. Let's look at it. I mean, and again, it has been said on record by people close to the president that he is someone who generally doesn't believe in reshuffles. He cites himself as an example that when he was a minister in Akufo-Addo's government, I don't remember whether it was in Kufuor's government. Thank you. In Kufuor's government, I don't remember whether it was as Attorney General or as Foreign Minister. But in one of those portfolios, he was changed after a couple of years, and he laments to this day that he felt like he was just getting into the groove of that job. Attorney General, thank you. He was just getting to grips with that job when he was removed. So his personal philosophy about ministerial appointments is that let people have time to get good at their jobs. That's the philosophy of President Akufo-Addo. So when 8 months to an election, you do a reshuffle, how much time are you giving these people to get good at their jobs? So already, any notion that this reshuffle was done for the benefit of this nation, for the improvement of the circumstances and in these different ministries, that in any such illusion is shattered. That is not what the president is trying to do. He's not trying to make things better for Ghana. So what's he trying to do? Well, let's look at it. 6 out of the 9 new appointees all have parliamentary elections coming up in December. Every single one of the deputies has a parliamentary election coming up. So if you really want people to do a better job in a portfolio, why would you bring someone who cannot possibly have the time and attention to do the job? Because campaigns are going to start any moment. So these people will come and hover about the ministry for 2-3 months, then they'll disappear to go and fight their opponents on the campaign trail. You will go to the ministry and not find them there. So why did the president put them there? What's his thinking? By the way, there is a president who, as you remember, in 2017, when he started appointing his 100 and something ministers, every person he appointed, he would come and explain why. He was the first president to do that. I thought that was brilliant. I'd like to hear him do that now with this reshuffle. I'd like to hear him explain to us why he thinks Asenso Boachi should become the roads minister. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear him give us reasons for these changes. Now, you know what is an interesting foil, right, to what the president has just done? President Kufuor, with 1 year to the election, announced that anybody in his government who has political ambitions, who intends to run for any office, should resign. Because he wanted people who can do the job. So they all left and he replaced them with people who don't have elections coming up. Akufo-Addo has done the direct opposite of that. He's appointed people who have elections coming up, and he has removed anybody who either lost in the primaries or announced that they are no longer going to run. So you see, the president wants you to see that he appoints people as reward and disappoints them as punishment. You see, I don't think you will get a clearer indication of the mindset of our president than this. He has used this reshuffle to affirm in everybody's mind that he's not working for you. He's working for himself and his friends. This is what the vice president has to divorce himself from in order to win and break the 8.
This is what the vice president is attached to.
How he's going to do that? Yes, you have to be attached to something before you can divorce yourself from it. So how he's going to do that, I really don't know. But that's the task ahead of him. But what I was saying earlier, the point I said I was going to make, one of the points in the vice president's vision that he communicated in his speech was that he will have only 50 ministers. Right after that, the president, who we all say is his number one supporter, the reason why he even has a place in this party, is President Akufo-Addo. So you would expect that President Akufo-Addo would be vested. He would be interested in BAWUMIA doing well in the next election. So if BAWUMIA goes to say to the country that I will have 50 ministers, because I don't believe in such a huge government, and you, Akufo-Addo, you have the chance to do a reshuffle, which you know you cannot achieve anything with, because your new appointees will only have a few months to work. So you know you can't achieve anything. The low-hanging fruit you attempt to pluck with it will be to at least reduce the size. if you want anybody to think that you and your vice president think the same. But clearly he doesn't. So even that low-hanging fruit, he didn't pick it. So if there is ever going to be a clearer indication that Akufo-Addo and BAWUMIA are not thinking the same, this is it.
But again, okay, let me keep quiet, because again, if I speak now, myself and Kojo probably would get into an argument. I mean, the vice president is saying that we do not think the same. I'm different. Isn't that the whole point?
Yes.
So
this is confirming it.
That
yes. So we are agreeing, Ama. Don't look now, but we are agreeing.
No, Kojo, I just want us to run along because I'm looking at time, because my arguments with this is a lot.
There's no argument here. You've said what I said.
No, I see the... No, never mind. Come lawyer.
I agree with Kojo's point, but except that I don't see how it means to the vice president attempting to extricate, because
I'm just saying that they don't think the same.
But
I don't think it
not
to
two
his
people,
benefit.
not even twins, think the same. Not even twins think the same. And also, if we are analyzing issues from the perspective of people thinking alike, then it also tells to the character of the vice president that he stayed by or agreed to be with the president even when there's this massive departure in how they see things. Because you join political parties because you are aligned to how the party seems to be thinking. So then I'm struggling to understand how the vice president managed to stay with the president and even touted the credentials of the president, if indeed there's that massive departure in how they see things. Me, from I said it and I'll say it again, I don't trust anything the vice president says. I don't trust, so even that his 50th thing he's talking about, I don't trust it. So I tell him that when the president was appointing all these numbers, he didn't have any discussion with the vice president. That the vice president didn't have any input. 8 years, 7 years. When you are the one transforming the president says transform the economy, but when I'm choosing my people, you have no say in who I choose or the numbers. You understand? So the sad thing for me is the extent to which the MPP has allowed. I think they've actually been reckless for the president and the vice president to destroy the integrity and credibility of the party to such an extent. You sponsor a candidate, you are chosen as a vice president candidate, you lead a campaign, you try to whitewash a candidate who Ghanaians in the first place they didn't even trust. And I'm saying I didn't trust Nana-Addo into it. I decided to vote for him because of the vice president. Because he understand, if he has BAWUMIA and he seems to be sharp, and he's saying that Nana-Addo is there, then
that's
I'll
power
go.
Then
I'll go.
That's power right
So you have
there.
that, and then you sit down and you don't believe in large government. You don't believe you believe in lean. And you see, let's talk about small. About the problem isn't even just about the ministers. The size of government itself, the size of the aids, and then the the agencies, and just the size of the public service. You understand? So for me, like I said, I agree. So when Kojo was, I said, "Wow," he said everything. What are we going to say? I agree with everything he said, except to add that for me, I think everything the vice president is saying and how he managed to stay by somebody that he didn't believe doesn't do his person any justice. And I feel that this reshuffle, like Kojo already said, I don't actually see the point, especially when you have even elevated the finance minister. Are you trying to pull a first one over all of us?
He's actually been,
are you trying to pull a first one over all of us?
That was not a motion.
I even feel bad for the finance minister, because everything everything he wants to do would have to get approval of the same person. The whole country has been practically begging the president to let go. But just to add that, you see, I hope Ghanaians are learning from this. When they're going to vote for the president, it's not about the party. The power really is with the president. You understand? The power really is with the president. So let's say, but for BAWUMIA having allowed himself to be maybe used or to say one of things, when we are going to consider who we is the BAWUMIA that we are going to consider or we ought to be considering.
Do not vote based on partisanship.
No, at all, because you don't give the power to the party. Because the MPP is telling us that they tell us what's called the general secretary sits in cabinet, the chairman sits in cabinet. So is it their position? Is MPP's position that we should have large government? Yeah, understand. So it's for we Ghanaians to understand that when we are going to vote somebody as president, it's not the party. You are actually going to vote for, or you are going to vest into a human being the executive powers of the state. So it is very critical that we analyze the person we are going into whose hands we are going to, the integrity of the person, the credibility of the competence, right. The track record of the person. Then we make that correct. But it was on the basis of all that I never believed. And also the fact that beyond you being president, you're also the leadership. The leader. Because Kwabena said something said something very extremely important. Maybe said in a very nice way, so people, but extremely important. Now when you are president, it's not about you. When you are president, the reasons, the purpose behind your decisions cannot be about you. But we have a president who can comfortably, who has the cockroach audacity to look into the eyes of the repository of sovereign power at Kofi, at Mepe, and so many that, I decided not to bring development to you because you didn't vote for my MP. That I shouldn't even have been here because you don't vote for me. In my view, they're impeachable statements. So we should understand that also when you vote for somebody as president, it's not about the position, it's leadership, offering competent and credible leadership. And for us to decide whether the person we want to vote for is capable or has demonstrated that indeed he's capable of delivering leadership. And because Nado has shown us why.
You took the words right out of my brain.
And so in 2024, we should have all that at the back of our minds.
Absolutely.
In who we place this powers.
Absolutely. Senior.
I have a contrary view to what their position is.
Right.
And I think the musical chairs of a reshuffle is a theatrical play that one must analyze critically to understand what's happening. Everything President Akufo-Addo has done in this instance inures to the benefit of BAWUMIA. Everything. First, it is to create the impression of them not being Siamese twins or being different, or to reinforce that impression that as a president, he prefers a larger government. BAWUMIA may have his own vision, which in itself is not original. Because all BAWUMIA did was to reinforce what the former president, Mahama, and the ADC had been saying of the MPP administration over time. What the MPP did was that they realized some issues are popular with the public. So John Mahama goes to say, I'll run with a maximum 60 ministers. The public response is positive. I'll go for 50, reduce it by 10. Most of the things they announced are things that the opposition had said, and they've realized public response was good. So he sees on it. I'll cancel these taxes that he was part of. He's been part of this government for all this time. So you don't tell me that he woke up all of a sudden and realized that running a government with 50 ministers is the aim thing. Now, if President Akufo-Addo had actually gone with a lesser number of ministers, then the questions would be, if BAWUMIA told him earlier, probably would have listened to him.
Would have been done.
He hadn't been telling him. What? Do you understand what I'm saying? So play along. with the concept of them being different, maintain your ministers and say, oh, BAWUMIA has a different vision. That is what I see. Again, I think Kojo saw something. Maybe he didn't feed on it. But he identified it clearly. That the ministers, most of the ministers that were appointed for electoral benefits, to generate war chests, to have them campaign. Who would they be campaigning for? It's to make sure they generate the war chest, generate resources to help them prosecute the campaign that would inure to the benefit of no other person in BAWUMIA. Because in winning their parliamentary seats, they'll be consolidating votes for nobody else than BAWUMIA. So everything is a strategic game. Everything is done, is deliberately calculated to inure to the benefit of his vice, while giving an impression that they are different in positions, in thoughts, and all. That is what I see. Because President Akufo-Addo so far showed that he listens to the vice president. He showed us clearly also that he will do whatever it takes to have him succeed him. But he's also aware that there's public disquiet about some members of his administration, particularly the finance minister. He's been within and without. My own vice has given an impression that he's been calling some of the shots. I was against e-levy. He probably was for it, and he publicly went and advocated for it. Let me give an impression that I'm removing the finance minister. And that's what he's done. Though, realistically, we all know that he's going to call the shots. Because he's going to be the man behind the scenes who the finance minister will report to. He's going to deal with bonds. The very things he's been doing as a finance minister, he's going to disagree, he's going to do it even more. But publicly give an impression that you've listened to the concerns of the vice president and removed it. That's what he's done. Who does that impression in yours to? The vice president, BAWUMIA.
I mean,
because he seeks to play to the criticism of those who have a problem with some of the ministers of state, like the finance minister. And mark my words, very soon, people will go and tell you that, oh, it's because of the concerns that the president removed the finance minister and all that.
But I have to say this. I mean, forgive me, but this is some weird campaign strategy. I mean, I find the whole situation confusing, right? One, we have a president who chose his vice. He chose him, right? Subsequently, throughout their working relationship, they have had no problems. It's been the best of relationships, the best of everybody's knowledge. We see it. It's beautiful to watch, right? And then, I mean, from everything we've heard from within the MPP, and even from you breaking away to form the movements and all of that, it seems as if, or it sounds as though the president engineered
for his
vice president to succeed him. That's what it looks like, But then suddenly you have a vice president who, in spite of all this, is saying that he is not me. I am not with him.
He cannot afford to be part of the continuation of what is. Because what is a failure.
First of all, the government has failed. If this is the first time I've ever seen it was into it, the campaign slogan was continuation. Mama in 2016 was Tuaso. The first time the presidential candidate from the ruling government is trying to run a campaign that seeks to more or less a change campaign, more or less. The first time I've ever It's a massive admission of the failure of this government.
You see,
and the need for their candidates to want to.
I told you the MP ran a similar campaign in 2008. Look.
But you see, I'm sorry to cut you, sir, but in that instance, we actually heard of rancor, and we could attest to the genuineness of that murky situation where we knew that the two personalities were clashing. And so it makes sense for one to say that let's go for change.
Fantastic.
In this instance, there's no evidence of rancor. In fact, there's actual evidence of collusion, or what's the word, right? Is that the word?
Collusion, yes.
Right? And yet one is saying, you know, it's I don't know. It has to either be a very master-minded game or some very low-level guy. I don't know. I don't know.
I know that my senior believes that there is a mastermind game going on. And you know, it's characteristic of smart people that you tend to assume that everybody is operating at a high level. So I've heard you propound some very interesting theories, which I believe if you were on anybody's campaign team, this is how you would have everybody thinking. That look, the opponent is strategic. He's doing this to achieve that. And you would be a great asset to any team. The problem is that people aren't that smart.
Even at that level, Kojo. At that level.
Especially these people. They are not that smart. And what is happening really is someone attempting to forge order out of chaos. That's why it is so contradictory. That's why in one breath, we've done well, I'm with them. But in another breath, I'm not with them, I'm different. Because, I keep saying this, the job he has, it's impossible. It's impossible.
But he thinks it is possible.
Oh, but he has to. I mean, what other option does he have than to think it's possible? But look, they are not that strategic. They are not. And I mean, I'm sure they will consider it a great compliment that you think so highly of their, you know, their conspiratorial ability. But look.
You don't think?
Massa.
Look,
First of all, President Akufo-Addo, if he has a strategy, if he does, it was formed maybe when he was 7 years old. His strategy was, I must be president. That was it. So on the 7th of January 2017, he achieved his goal. Since then, he's not been trying to achieve any goal. And I think you can see the evidence. Look, maybe he said to himself, as a president, I must have a legacy. So mine will be free SHS. So I think we all heard the stories of, you know, just before it was implemented in September of his first year in office, we heard the stories of how his entire cabinet came to him with reasons why it shouldn't be done now. And his message to them, allegedly, was, I don't care how you do it. Go and do it. It tells you that he's not doing things for some other people's benefit. And that's the thing you said I touched on but didn't explore deeply. You are right. The man is not, he's not our president. He's the president. He achieved his goal in January 2017. And since then, he's been reaping the reward. Let me ask you, do you think Akufo-Addo loses if NPP doesn't win in December?
Absolutely not.
But
that is
so?
It.
The man said he does not care if.
Absolutely
No,
not.
but the man in Kumasi said he does not care if
That
they vote
is
for him.
it.
I don't think so.
He loses.
So the minute you
does?
align your mind,
Alex,
the minute
does.
you align
Alex,
your
in
mind
Kumasi.
with the fact that he doesn't care how this election turns out, the minute you are able to convince and understand yourself that the president doesn't care, once you get that, then everything he does makes sense. Everything he does.
I agree and
makes
disagree
sense.
with you in the same breath. I agree with
Which
you
is
that
difficult for you.
I agree with you that whether the MPP wins or loses, it doesn't affect him because he has achieved presidency. It doesn't matter. He has been one-time president of Ghana. He has written his name. I was here, some. It's done. It's done.
What again?
So that I agree, but I don't think that.
No, he's saying that.
I don't think that he doesn't care if he cares
that much.
He doesn't care
that much.
It doesn't
to be
affect
interested.
him.
Alex, but the
doesn't affect him.
But the evidence.
Why should he care?
You see, but
He's telling you who he is.
You see,
No, Alex.
If I may just land on this point, it's a quick one. The president has been telling us who he is for a very long time. We are the ones who just refuse to believe him because we can't believe that we voted for such a person. Well, the man who was carrying banku with women, drinking calipo, that this is who he is. We find it hard to reconcile that in our minds. But the man keeps telling us. When he comes to Mepe, he says that you didn't vote for me, I don't need to be here.
Exactly.
When he tells the people of Ekumfi, is it Ekumfi? Ekumfi, that you didn't vote for my guy. So honestly, I'm taking my eye off you. The president said this with his mouth in the presidency.
No,
he's telling you who he is.
I the Kwasi one when he was told that
he can choose not to vote for me.
Okay, well if you vote for them, at that time he had won the second.
He's been telling you who he is all this time. We are the ones who refuse to accept it. So look, yes, maybe his preferred choice was BAWUMIA.
Yeah.
But I put it to you that was only his preferred choice because he didn't want Alan.
The president by
That's my theory.
had decided.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
That's
I
the only reason why
that by 2019 the president had decided that BAWUMIA was going with BAWUMIA.
Yes, but I'm saying the reason for that decision is that he didn't want it to be Alan. That's my theory, my personal view. I'm entitled to it. I can be contradicted from here to heaven.
So
but
even though it won't be me,
it
definitely should not be him.
Look, it makes no difference to Nana Akufo-Addo himself whether his party wins in December or not. He's done. He's finished it. Now it's all about taking the trips to Germany and wherever else. If somebody is celebrating a birthday in another country and you invite him, I will not be surprised that he will jump onto a plane, fuel it, and go. Because at this point, all he wants is to be presidential. He wants to be the president. He doesn't want to be your president. And he's been showing us all this time. This reshuffle is just the final jigsaw puzzle. The final piece of the jigsaw puzzle to make you see that it's not because of you that he does anything.
Look, while I agree with the notion that the president is at the self-actualization stage of having, self-actualization of being president, and is in that in that stage, that certain things that may not make sense to us. I feel, in fact, I find it difficult to believe that he doesn't care about his legacy or who succeeds him. And I'll tell you why. You see, age comes with certain feelings. In fact, I had a friend, and I don't want to mention his name. When I was much younger, around 25, he told me, he said, remember, I didn't understand him then. I'm telling you, I didn't understand him then. But subsequently, I realized that he explained it to me. He said, no, as a man, the older you get, the kind of things that you are even careful to say when you are young, as you mature, you say it with ease, without care. At the time, I did not understand. But over time, even with me, I've come to realize that it's to a certain extent true. That as you age, you tend to be more forthright,
blunt,
and other things than when you are young, because then you tend what is the effect of all that. The point I'm making is that it is and is said with men. The president is aged, is old. He will be more forthright in saying his mind than when he was a young person seeking for political power. And then again, he's gotten to the point of self-actualization, he ain't got nothing to lose. So yes, to some extent, he will exercise some discretions that would not make sense. But that is not to say that he does not have an interest in the Usos. He has a serious interest. And I'll tell you why. Even in the running mate for BAWUMIA today, that interest is weighing. Go check the names that have come out. And go check the establishment's choice. And why they are probably opposed to what some party people want. It is because the president still has an interest going forward. Not only in BAWUMIA, but who, after BAWUMIA, will still be the face of the party. Again, it is important to realize that in some of these cases, the choices are not even made by the president. We all know that. There are power breakers behind the president. So while you may be looking at the president, his comfort, his passion for comfort, when we are all suffering and thinking that that may be him showing us his self-actualization mindset, you must also realize that there are power brokers who probably take along the president exercising some of these things to achieve a certain end. That is why I keep on saying that I believe that and I know, I don't want to mention, there are a few people who are that tactical, like, quite cagey. Quite cagey. It may be one person, it may be two people, but they may be able to push the agenda in a way that others running it may not know. Look, nobody will convince me that President Akufo-Addo didn't care enough. It is just out of a self-actualization mindset that they decided that he will put MPs who he knew or he knows are facing challenges in their constituencies and who he is very much aware he needs to resource. He places that resource them to go and contest the elections in 2024. First is to make sure that those MPs have a certain loyalty to him. Because they'll be grateful for the opportunities given them. It's also to ensure that they will, he himself said, watchers. Marshal enough watchers. I mean, it's not just to make, it's not to make them go and work. Why? What would they be doing between now? They will be going to campaign. They will be focused on their campaign. No, it is just to make sure, go last minute, go and marshal enough there to go and contest. It is to make sure some of them to buy their loyalty to ensure that BAWUMIA wins it.
It's kept.
It's kept.
Our time is up. Our time is up. But I don't want us to leave without. Our time is up. But I'll give you the
if I am to wrap up.
Brief. 2 seconds each. I don't want us to leave without telling, because sometimes we need to help ourselves think. You know, sometimes you have all the information, but you don't know what to make of the information, right? Brilliant analysis we've done this evening from all, angles. But if I'm watching this show and I'm thinking, wow, what do, as a voter that's going to the polls December 7th, what should I make of all of this information? How should all of this information inform the choices that I make? Ultimately, that's what's important. Ultimately.
Oh, it's quite clear. We're in the worst situation we've ever been in about more than 40 years. The economy has tanked. The projection is that it will take us about 20 years to recover. As we sit, we are not paying any of our debts. We've postponed it to 2025, 2026, and yet we are still in this mess. Look, I keep on saying that as a people, if for nothing at all, let us keep changing. One day we'll get it right. Let us keep changing. Even if it has to be 4 years a change, just let politicians take it serious. Let us do it. Vote this government out. That is my position.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you are people. You their vote. Spend your mind. Vote them out. Next time you can then reconvene. That is it.
I like that.
Well, personally, I see opportunity.
You see opportunity.
I see opportunity in the sense that I think in 1982 we had an opportunity. We missed it. You understand? Opportunity when we left the controlled economy to, let's say, some form of free trade economy. We missed an opportunity there. That means opportunity was a failure to build the capacity of local businesses 2025, there's another opportunity. Right now, it's clear that government doesn't have the funds, the credibility to build the economy. I think the onus is on the private sector. So in choosing the leader, the next leader, you must choose a leader that has demonstrated that he has the skill, the capacity to build the private sector. And that person, in my opinion, is Honorable Alan
Chamanti. So vote out the government, vote Alan Chamanti. What do you say?
Try not to burst into tears at the hopelessness of the situation in 2024. That's mine. You know, look, I don't think there is anybody who has so far put themselves forward as an option to be president who will transform this country. I don't think
we will make a choice.
Do you want to conclude for me?
No, let's practicalize it. I agree with
Everybody
you.
has had the opportunity to make their conclusion. I'm trying to make mine.
They made it in that context. No, Kojo.
So can I make it?
Understand me.
Okay, I finished understanding you. Can I now go back to the point I was making?
Kojo, we agree for transformational leadership. I'm saying that in the next election, we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice.
You like it, you're not like
it. Should I please conclude my point?
Could you conclude?
Thank you, Amma.
We'll get it right.
Just try not to burst into tears when you go into the ballot box in December, because there is nobody so far who has put themselves forward for the role of president of this country who has convinced anyone that they can transform this country. Not yet. If something happens in the next few months that will make that happen, then fair enough. But as we stand today, the election was today. There's no transformational option on the ballot. But where does that leave us as Ghanaians? Because like you said, we must make a choice. So what must it be based on? One thing I do agree with, which both of my colleagues have said today, is that maybe it shouldn't be about party. That party that you adopted at puberty and decided that you vote for them, come what may, whatever they do, right or wrong. Please, maybe this is the year to park them and just look at the people who say they want to be your president, and see if there's anyone in there who, compared to the others, might be a better option. I wish you luck with that, because personally, from where I sit, I don't see it.
Thank you, Kojo. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, lawyer Andrew Appiah-Dankwa, private legal practitioner, of course, Kojo Yankson, broadcast journalist with Joy FM SMS. Kojo, your latest show, small promotion.
Oh, my podcast. Yes, it's called The Secret Lives of Adults. And it's about exactly that.
The Very controversial. And you can watch it on YouTube.
Yes,
There's a YouTube page.
Search for it on YouTube. The Secret Lives of Adults.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, of course, our senior, the journalist senior, Mr. Alfred Ubami, veteran journalist. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much. We are coming back next week, are we? Yes. Thank you for watching. We hope that we have, brought some deeper understanding, or information to you concerning all that's happening. Like everybody said, I beg, open your eye, open your ear, watch, put the partisanship, and vote for you, for me, for the future of this country. See you next week. Bye.
Truly African.
How can we do some local fast food?